As we enter this time of Advent, we are often invited to live in the expectation of what is to come, to live in anticipation of the hope that is symbolized by the birth of a child in a manger. This child will represent and embody a different way to see and relate with the world, with one another, with the divine, and with nature. Often, amid this expectation, we emphasize the conditions of marginality, inequality, and discrimination in which this baby is to be born. In many ways, such a context of marginalization resembles many of our realities today. Today, we live in a world that often disguises disparity as diversity, a world that presents inequality as the result of individual effort, a world in which exclusion is often passed as tolerance. Just as the theme of this year in our Mennonite community suggested, we live in a world of difference, in wereldwaardverschil. Differences, diversity, inequality, exclusion, tolerance are not abstract terms. They are reflected and embodied by actual people. When we think about our differences, we think about those who are different. People who look different, dress different, or have a different color of skin. When we consider inclusion and exclusion, there are specific people that come to mind based on their gender, background, nationality. When we imagine diversity, there are specific individuals and communities that either we have encountered or that we have an image about. Having in mind that differences and disparities are embodied by actual people, the question that raises seems to be how to embrace the other. When I think about this question, the book Exclusion and Embrace, a theological exploration of identity, otherness, and reconciliation of the theologian Miroslav Volf comes immediately to mind. In this book, he reflects on the theme of reconciliation through the metaphor of embrace. For Volf, it is important to explore what it means to embrace the other, especially when the other is not just a neutral other, but an offender or a victim. There are many things that could be said and learned about Volf's theological and biblical approach. Nevertheless, one of the most insightful aspects of his work, in my view, is the consideration of 4 different moments that are part of embracing the other. Each of these moments will imply or require specific things from the people involved. These moments are more or less the following. The first moment is opening the arms. When we open the arms to embrace another person, it means that we have made space in ourselves for the other. Opening the arms is a sign that we have decided to become vulnerable to the other and that we're willing to accept the other in ours or close to us. Of course, that move is already very risky because we're exposed, we're vulnerable, our chest is open towards the other. The second moment is waiting. After opening the arms, we wait for the other to do the same. Waiting means that there are different rhythms and that people involved are not always ready to embrace or to be embraced. By not waiting for the other, or by forcing an embrace, it's basically forcing literally embrace to the other, the embrace stops being a benevolent act and becomes another form of pressure, oppression, or even violence. The third moment is closing the arms, when the person has finally decided to come close and we have embraced. When the other has also opened their arms and we have come near, we close the arms in a soft touch of welcoming the other without destroying the difference and uniqueness of the other. Finally, the fourth moment is opening the arms again. The embrace, as nice as it can be, doesn't last forever. A key part of the process is to open the arms again so that the 2 people release each other into the world, and to keep walking. This points to yet another characteristic of the embrace. It is not possible to determine its outcome and what will happen after. It seems like an ideal picture, doesn't it? We can probably immediately think about how our experiences of embracing others and being embraced are not always like this. In a way, these 4 moments presuppose some level of equal position or presume that we're in a safe space. How are we supposed to embrace the other in a world that places us in different positions of privilege and marginalization in terms of gender, race, class, body abilities, religious background, nationality? With time, I have come to think about one more moment in the process of embracing the other, namely the movement towards the other. When we are going to embrace the other person, some form of movement in direction of the other person is needed, is required. The other comes and we go. This movement involves both sides, ideally. This additional moment in the process of embracing, which in a way precedes the other 4 moments we just described, might give us some additional insights in what it implies to embrace the other in a world full of disparities. First, moving towards the other implies recognizing that we are not in the same position. When we want to embrace the other, we need to pay attention to the position and comfortability of the other and also of ourselves. Becoming aware of this means that we have different experiences of privilege and exclusion, marginalization. In order to embrace the other, we need to recognize our point of departure and how different the point of departure of the other might be. Second, moving towards the other means leaving our comfort zones. While this might seem very obvious, it implies different things for each of us, based on where we are located in terms of experiences of privilege and marginalization exclusion. For some of us, leaving the comfort zone implies confronting the privileges we have and how they affect the way we see and relate with others. As uncomfortable as it is to make them explicit and seek to deal with them, no major transformation of injustices of this world would happen without this. For some of us, leaving the comfort zone would imply opening up to change stereotypes and prejudices that we might have about the other. For some other people, the implication of moving towards the other will be entering the uncomfortable and difficult process of dealing with the wounds and pain caused by violence and injustice. In all these cases, leaving the comfort zone or entering a process that is very uncomfortable will mean opening up to be transformed by the encounter with the other, not simply expecting the other to change. And third, moving to embrace the other implies that there are different distances that we need to cover. Just as it happens when we embrace or are embraced, one person often moves more than the other. In a world full of injustices, there are different distances we need to travel in order to embrace the other. Moving to the other from a position of privilege is not the same as moving towards the other from a position of disadvantage. Yes, both of them require movement, but these movements are not the same. That means that it's difficult to demand or impose the other what the lengths and distances of their paths, their journeys should be. This image becomes even more complex when we realize that most of us are not just in the position of privilege or in a position of experiencing injustice. We often have stories about both. Thus, our journey to embrace the other will always be unique, depending on the context and where we are in relation to the other. May this time of Advent challenge us to revisit where we are in relation to others. May this time be an inspiration and hope that can lead us to change the realities of disparity and exclusion that, just like in the times of Jesus, have an impact in so many lives. May we think about those we consciously need to start the process of embracing with. Amen.